Captain Vortak drummed his claws against the command console, his 6 eyes scanning the security feeds with growing irritation. The human containment sector was in chaos, alarms blaring, guards scrambling, and most notably, one very important cage standing empty. "Would someone care to explain," he said, his voice dangerously calm, "how a soft, a fleshy creature with exactly 2 arms and 2 legs managed to escape our most secure detention block?" The bridge fell silent. No one wanted to be the bearer of bad news, especially when the captain's neck frills were flaring that particular shade of murderous purple. Lieutenant Grack finally stepped forward, clearing all 3 of his throats. "Captain, it appears the human, designation prisoner 1138, somehow fashioned a weapon from his food tray and subdued the guards during the 3rd rotation." "A food tray," Vortak repeated flatly. "Our mighty Zendari Empire, conquerors of 17 star systems, just had its security breached by a hairless monkey with a food tray?" "Well, technically, sir, it was the edge of the food tray which he sharpened against." "I don't care if he used interpretive dance and a stern talking to. Find him," Vortak roared, sending the bridge crew scurrying to their stations. "This human is dangerous. Did none of you read the report from the Galactic Council? These creatures are classified as Deathworlders for a reason." Vortak pulled up the prisoner's file on his display. "Thomas Reed," he muttered, studying the human's image. The creature looked harmless enough with its rounded features and complete lack of natural armor, but appearances were deceiving. This particular specimen had been captured during a raid on a human mining outpost near the Perseus Arm, and unlike the other workers who had cowered appropriately, this one had fought back. The report noted that 3 Zendari warriors had been incapacitated before they'd managed to subdue him. Security Chief Pindar report. Vortak barked into his communicator. A harried voice replied, "Captain, we have tracked the human to maintenance level 6. He's in the weapons control sector." Vortak felt his blood run cold. "Lock it down. Now." "We are trying, sir, but he's overridden 3 security checkpoints already. This human seems to understand our systems." "That's impossible. How would a primitive mining engineer understand advanced Zendari technology?" There was an uncomfortable pause before Pindar replied, "Sir, according to his complete file, he wasn't always a mining engineer. Before being exiled to the Rim colonies, he was a military strategist specializing in alien weapon systems." Vortak slammed his fist down so hard the console cracked. "And you are just sharing this information now?" "The complete file only arrived after his capture, sir. The initial report was abbreviated." A new alarm suddenly blared across the ship, this one more urgent than the last. Lieutenant Grack's eyes widened as he checked his display. "Captain, the human has accessed the auxiliary weapons bay. He's activated the internal defense systems." Vortak leapt from his command chair. "Override. I can't. He's locked us out of the primary control matrix." Throughout the massive warship, automated sentry guns designed to repel boarders swiveled on their mounts, but instead of targeting external threats, they turned inward. The first volley tore through the corridor outside the bridge, the distinctive whine of plasma fire followed by screams. "Seal the bridge," Vortak ordered, just as the massive blast doors slammed shut. "Get me ship-wide communications." A moment later, a calm human voice echoed through every speaker on the vessel. "Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and whatever the hell you 6-eyed purple freaks consider yourselves," the voice said pleasantly. "This is Thomas Reed, your recently self-liberated prisoner speaking. First, I'd like to thank you for your hospitality over the past 3 months. The daily beatings, starvation rations, and that charming little experiment where you tried to see how long I could hold my breath while being dunked in ammonia, really top-notch stuff." Vortak hissed. "Trace that transmission." "Oh, don't bother trying to trace this, Captain Vortak," Reed continued, as if hearing him. "I'm currently nestled quite comfortably in your ship's nerve center, surrounded by enough firepower to turn this lovely vessel into an impressive light show. Now, we could do this the easy way or the fun way. The easy way is you surrender the ship to me. The fun way, well, let's just say I have had 3 months to think about how to disassemble a Zendari warship from the inside. We don't negotiate with prisoners. Vortak snarled into the comm. Reed's laugh echoed through the ship. Prisoner? I think you will find my status has been upgraded to the guy who controls whether you live or die. But let me be clear about something. I don't want your surrender because I plan to be merciful. I want it because it will be so much more satisfying to watch you and your crew experience the same helplessness you inflicted on me and my people. The ship suddenly lurched, sending crew members tumbling across the bridge. What was that? Vortak demanded. Grak checked his console, his complexion paling to a sickly shade of lavender. He's fired our primary thrusters. We are changing course. To where? We are heading toward the fleet rendezvous coordinates. Vortak felt his heart sink. The entire 7th Battle Group was gathering for the upcoming offensive against the human colonies. 12 warships, each as powerful as his own. Reed's voice returned, this time with a hint of genuine amusement. Oh yes, I know all about your little invasion plan. Turns out your security encryptions aren't nearly as sophisticated as you think. Or maybe I'm just not as primitive as you assumed. Either way, I think it's time your friends met me too. You will never get past the fleet's security protocols, Vortak said, trying to sound confident despite the growing dread in his gut. Won't I? Let's find out together. I have always wanted to attend a space battle from the inside. Although, technically, it's not a battle when only one side is shooting, is it? More like a, what's the word? Oh, right. A massacre. The main view screen flickered, showing their new trajectory. They were on course to rendezvous with the fleet in less than 3 hours. Captain, Grak whispered, the human has activated our long-range communications array. He's broadcasting something to the fleet. Jam it, Vortak ordered. I can't. He's locked us out of all systems. Reed's voice returned, sounding almost bored now. But you know what your biggest mistake was, Captain? Besides the obvious ones like kidnapping humans and torturing the wrong human, you never bothered to learn about us. If you had, you might have discovered that we humans have a saying. Revenge is a dish best served cold. And after 3 months in your lovely accommodations, I have had plenty of time to let my revenge get nice and frosty. The ship shuddered again as more internal weapons activated, cutting off sections of the vessel from one another. Since we have some time before we reach your friends, let me tell you a story, Reed continued conversationally. Once upon a time, there was a peaceful mining colony just trying to extract some boring minerals from an uninhabited planet. Then one day, a group of purple tentacle-faced aliens showed up, killed half the colonists, and took the rest prisoner for what they called scientific research. Barbaric, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Another alarm blared as the life support systems in 3 decks suddenly shut down. The aliens didn't realize that one of their prisoners wasn't just a simple miner. He was a retired military specialist who'd spent 15 years studying alien weapon systems and devising countermeasures against them. But more importantly, he was someone with nothing left to lose after watching his friends and family slaughtered. Now, what do you think happens when you give someone like that 3 months to study your ship from the inside? Lieutenant Grak looked up from his console, his eyes wide with panic. Captain, he's activated the self-destruct sequence on our escort vessels. That's impossible. Vortak sputtered. They are not even connected to our systems. Remember that transmission he sent? It contained command overrides. The same ones we use to control our automated drone ships. Beside the viewports, 2 smaller Zendari vessels flanking the warship suddenly exploded in brilliant balls of plasma and debris. Oops, Reed's voice said, not sounding sorry at all. Would you look at that? Your escort ships seem to have had some kind of catastrophic system failure. Tragic. Almost as tragic as what happened to mining outpost Delta 9 and its 200 civilian workers. Vortak slumped in his command chair, the reality of their situation becoming painfully clear. This human wasn't just escaping, he was systematically dismantling everything in his path. "What do you want?" Vortak finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Now we are getting somewhere," Reed replied cheerfully. "What do I want? Let me think. World peace. A nice beachfront property? No, wait, I have got it. How about justice?" The main view screen changed, showing Reed standing in the ship's auxiliary control center. He looked thinner than his file image, his face gaunt with dark circles under his eyes, but there was a fire in his gaze that made even Vortak flinch. "Justice is such a complicated concept, isn't it, Captain?" Reed continued, idly spinning a Zindari sidearm on his finger. "But I'm a simple man, so I will settle for something more straightforward. I'm going to use your ship to send a message to your empire. A very loud, very explosive message that says leave humans alone, or next time we won't stop at just one fleet." The warship shuddered again as it accelerated, pushing its engines beyond safety parameters. "We will reach your fleet in 2 hours, Reed said, checking a display. "I suggest you use that time to make peace with whatever gods you worship, because I have got a feeling they are going to be meeting a lot of your species very soon." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lieutenant Grack was the first to speak. "Captain, what do we do?" Vortak stared at the blank screen, his mind racing through options and finding none. Their systems were compromised, their weapons turned against them, and they were heading straight toward the unsuspecting fleet with a human controlling their ship like a puppet. "We need to warn them," he said finally. "How?" "He's blocked all our communications." Vortak's eyes narrowed as an idea formed. "Not all of them. Get me our most expendable shuttlecraft, one just small enough to fit through the maintenance airlock on Deck 12. Sir, that airlock was damaged in the initial escape. It can't be opened from inside the ship." A grim smile spread across Vortak's face. "Exactly. But it can be breached from the outside. And I doubt our human friend has accounted for a kamikaze run against our own hull." As Vortak began outlining his desperate plan, deep in the ship's control center, Thomas Reed watched the activity on the bridge through the security cameras, a small smile playing on his lips. "Nice try, Captain," he muttered, fingers dancing across the alien controls with practiced ease. "But I'm counting on it." The shuttle bay was chaos as Vortak assembled his suicide squad. 6 warriors, each specializing in different combat techniques, prepared their gear while Lieutenant Grack ran through the mission parameters one final time. "Once you breach the hull at Maintenance Airlock 12, you will have approximately 90 seconds before emergency protocols seal the breach," Grack explained, displaying the ship's schematics. "During that window, you must reach the nearest terminal and initiate a local override of the communications system." "And if the human has anticipated this move?" asked Drencor, the squad's demolitions expert. Vortak's frills darkened. "Then we improvise. This Reed may understand our technology, but he doesn't know our ship like we do. There are maintenance tunnels that don't appear on any digital schematic." "Because they are too cramped for our species," muttered Kaz Tyr, the smallest member of the team. "I still don't see how." "You will manage," Vortak snapped. "Unless you'd prefer to be here when we crash into our own fleet." The shuttle bay doors opened with a hydraulic hiss, revealing their last functional escape craft. It wasn't much, barely large enough for the team and their equipment, but it would serve its purpose. "Remember," Vortak said as they boarded, "your primary objective is to warn the fleet. If you can retake control of the ship, excellent. If not," he paused, "make sure it doesn't reach the rendezvous point." The implication was clear: destroy the ship if necessary, even with all hands still aboard. As the shuttle launched from the bay, spiraling away from the massive warship, Thomas Reed watched from his command center with an appreciative nod. "Right on schedule?" he murmured, bringing up the ship's external defense grid. He could have shot them down immediately, but where was the fun in that? Besides, he needed them for the next phase of his plan. Reed tapped a few commands into the console. "Let's see how committed you really are, Captain." Aboard the shuttle, Dren Kor pointed at the warship's weapon systems, which remained dormant as they approached. "Why isn't he firing on us?" "Don't question good fortune," Vortak replied, though his instincts screamed that something was wrong. This human had demonstrated nothing but meticulous planning. Every move had been calculated. So why allow a shuttle to escape? The answer came as they approached the maintenance airlock. The shuttle's sensors suddenly blared warnings as a massive energy spike emanated from the warship. Evasive maneuvers. Vortak shouted, but it was too late. A precision blast from the ship's point defense system struck the shuttle's engines, not destroying the craft but crippling it. The shuttle tumbled toward the hull, exactly where they had planned to breach. But now they would be making their entrance as a barely controlled crash rather than a precision operation. Brace for impact. Kaztir yelled as the shuttle smashed into the hull, tearing through the damaged airlock and skidding across the interior deck in a shower of sparks and debris. Inside the control center, Reed smiled. Knock, knock. He switched to the security feed from maintenance level 12. Watching as the dazed Zendari warriors extracted themselves from the wreckage. Despite the crash, 5 of the 6 were still combat-capable. Impressive constitution, Reed had to admit. "Now let's see what you are really after," he muttered, monitoring their movements while simultaneously adjusting the ship's course. They were 80 minutes from the fleet rendezvous, and everything was proceeding perfectly. Vortak led his team through the smoke-filled corridor, past the emergency bulkheads that had slammed shut to contain the breach. "We need to reach Junction 47B. There's a maintenance terminal there that should still allow local access." "Captain," Kaztir said, checking his scanner, "I'm detecting unusual power fluctuations throughout this section, almost as if someone wanted to guide us along a specific path." Came Reed's voice from a nearby speaker. "Gold star for the little purple guy." "You are smarter than your captain," Vortak hissed in frustration. "Ignore him. Keep moving." "Oh, by all means, keep moving," Reed continued cheerfully. "In fact, I have taken the liberty of unlocking a few doors for you. Consider it a professional courtesy from one military man to another." The bulkhead ahead of them slid open, revealing a clear path to the maintenance terminal they sought. "It's a trap," Dren Kor said unnecessarily. "Of course it's a trap," Vortak growled. "But we have no choice." They advanced cautiously, weapons ready, expecting automated defenses or some other horrific surprise. Instead, they found the terminal active and waiting, its screen displaying a simple message: "Captain Vortak, I have a proposition." Vortak approached the terminal warily. "What game are you playing, human?" Reed's face appeared on the screen, looking remarkably composed for someone single-handedly hijacking a warship. "No game, Captain. Just good old-fashioned negotiation. You want to save your fleet. I want justice for my people. I think we can help each other. You murdered my escort crews, and you slaughtered an entire mining colony," Reed countered. "But let's not waste time comparing atrocities. The fact is, I don't actually want to destroy your fleet." Vortak's frills fluttered in confusion. "Then what do you want?" "I want to send a message. One that will be remembered for generations. And for that I need you alive." Reed leaned closer to the camera. "Here's my offer. I will spare your fleet if you transmit, in your own voice, the truth about what happened at mining outpost Delta 9. Confess your war crimes to the entire Zendari High Command." "That's suicide." Vortak sputtered. "They would execute me for dishonoring the Empire." Possibly, Reed agreed. "But it would also force your leadership to acknowledge what they have been doing in the shadows. The scientific research on civilians, the unprovoked attacks on neutral colonies. All of it. And if I refuse?" Reed shrugged. "Then I continue with my original plan. Your ship crashes into the fleet at full speed with reactors set to overload. The resulting explosion should take out at least half of your battle group. The rest will be crippled by the electromagnetic pulse. Vortak's eyes narrowed. You are bluffing! You couldn't possibly survive such an impact. Who said anything about me being on board when that happens? Reed grinned. Check your long-range scanners. Yell specifically grid coordinates 227 by 104. Kaztir quickly accessed the terminal, bringing up the sensor display. A small craft was moving away from the warship, already at the edge of detection range. That's impossible, Vortak whispered. When did you launch an escape pod? About 20 minutes ago while you were planning your little suicide mission, Reed explained. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you have complete control of a ship's systems, including its sensors. That pod is programmed to rendezvous with a passing merchant vessel, one whose captain owes humanity a favor. But you are still on the ship. We are seeing you right now. Reed's grin widened. Are you sure about that? Computer technology is fascinating, isn't it? Especially when it comes to pre-recorded messages and automated response systems. The image on the screen flickered briefly, revealing the telltale signs of a programmed sequence rather than a live feed. You have been talking to a ghost, Captain. The real me is already halfway to freedom. The recorded Reed checked his watch. And you have about 60 minutes to make your decision. The communications system on this terminal is fully functional. You can broadcast your confession to your fleet and high command whenever you are ready. If the system detects the proper voice print and keywords, it will abort the collision course. And if I try to override your programming instead, then you will trigger the immediate detonation of the secondary reactor cores I have rigged throughout the ship. The image of Reed leaned back, looking almost disappointed. Come on, Captain. Did you really think I'd leave something as important as revenge to chance? This ship is going to deliver my message one way or another. The only question is whether you and your fleet die in the process. The screen went blank for a moment, then displayed a simple countdown, 5942, 5941. What do we do, Captain? Drencor asked, his hand hovering over his weapon as if he could somehow shoot their way out of this situation. Vortak stared at the countdown, his mind racing. Could he trust the human's automated system to recognize his confession and spare the fleet? Or was this just another layer of psychological torture before their inevitable destruction? Sir, Kaz-Tyr interjected, I have been analyzing the ship's power distribution. There are indeed energy surges consistent with improvised explosive devices throughout the secondary reactor network. If they detonate, the primary core will go critical almost instantly. Can you disarm them? It's not remotely, and not in the time we have. Vortak slumped against the console. What would you do, Lieutenant? Confess to crimes that will brand you a traitor or die with honor? Kaz-Tyr's frills rippled thoughtfully. With respect, sir, I'm not certain there's honor in allowing 12 ships and their crews to be destroyed when we could prevent it. Even if it means admitting the Empire was wrong? Especially then, sir. Vortak looked at each member of his team, seeing the same resolution in their eyes. They had all participated in the raid on the mining colony. They had all followed orders without question. And now they were all facing the consequences of those actions. Very well, he said finally. Prepare the communication channel. I will tell the truth. 50 minutes later, as the massive Zendari warship approached the fleet rendezvous point, every communication officer on every ship in the battle group received the same unexpected transmission. Captain Vortak, decorated war hero and loyal servant of the Empire, confessing in excruciating detail the atrocities committed against human colonists under direct orders from high command. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Some ships demanded authentication. Others ordered Vortak to stand down. A few, recognizing the implications of his confession becoming widely known, even suggested destroying his ship before he could broadcast further. But it was already too late. The transmission wasn't just going to the fleet, it was being broadcast on all frequencies, including those monitored by neutral species and, more importantly, by human defense forces. As promised, the warship gradually altered course, avoiding a collision with the fleet. Instead, it settled into a stable orbit around a nearby moon, its engines powering down as if the ship itself was exhausted from its ordeal. Aboard the bridge, Vortak watched in stunned silence as the automated systems released control one by one, returning command to the Zendari crew. The final message on the main view screen simply read, "Confession accepted. Remember Delta 9. Captain." Lieutenant Grack reported from the newly functional communications station. "We are receiving orders from Fleet Command to prepare for immediate boarding and your arrest." "Understood," Vortak said quietly. "Make sure all logs and recordings are preserved. If I'm to be held accountable for my actions, then I want the rest of the chain of command to face the same scrutiny." "Sir, that's unprecedented. So is having our most advanced warship hijacked by a single human prisoner," Vortak pointed out. "Perhaps it's time for some unprecedented thinking." Meanwhile, across the system, a small escape pod docked with an unmarked transport ship. As the airlock cycled open, Thomas Reed stepped through, coming face to face with a grinning human captain. "Did it work?" the captain asked, offering Reed a container of water. Reed took a long drink before answering. "See for yourself." He handed over a data chip, every detail of the Zendari's planned invasion, along with Captain Vortak's full confession. Should make for interesting viewing back at command. And the Zendari fleet? Intact, but in complete disarray. Their command structure will be busy with internal investigations for months. By the time they sort it out, our defense forces will be ready for them. Reed smiled grimly. And they will think twice before attacking another primitive human outpost. The captain whistled. All that from one man with a food tray. "Well, the food tray was just the beginning," Reed admitted. "After that, I had access to their tools, their systems, and most importantly, 3 months of watching them underestimate humans at every turn." As the transport ship pulled away, setting course for human space, Reed took one last look at the distant Zendari fleet through a viewport. They appeared so powerful, so technologically advanced, and yet they had never bothered to learn the most important lesson about the species they had chosen to make their enemy. Humans were at their most dangerous when they had nothing left to lose. "You know," the captain said, joining him at the viewport, "they are calling you a hero back home. The man who stopped an invasion single-handedly." Reed shook his head. "I'm not a hero. I'm just a man who kept a promise." He touched a worn photograph in his pocket, the only possession the Zendari had overlooked, showing a smiling group of miners in front of an outpost sign reading Delta 9. "I told them I'd be back," he whispered. "And I told them no one would hurt our people like that again." As the Zendari ships faded from view, Reed turned away from the viewport. His revenge was complete. But the real victory wasn't in the destruction he could have caused, it was in the truth he had forced into the light. Sometimes the most powerful weapon wasn't a warship or a plasma cannon, but simply the truth that no empire, no matter how mighty, could escape accountability forever. And if there was one thing Thomas Reed excelled at, it was finding the perfect weakness in even the most formidable defenses. Today it had been the Zendari Empire's pride. Tomorrow, well, humanity would be ready for whatever came next. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the name Delta 9 had just become more than a mining outpost. But it had become a warning,